Welcome to my channel, my reading corner. My name is Tumi, and I'm so glad that you clicked on this video. So like the title says, I'm going to be doing my Feb and March wrap-up. So I actually shot a Feb wrap-up at the end of Feb, but I got busy, I got lazy, and yeah, I just never got around to editing and posting it. So I'm going to go into that footage, and then I'm going to come back and do my March. I'll tell you about the books that I read in March. So yeah, stick around for that. Yeah, so I didn't read too many books in Feb, but just looking at just my own reading pattern, it was a lot for me. Right? So if you watched my previous one of my previous videos, my 2021 TBR, I mentioned this book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho, that it would be on my TBR for this year. So yeah, I read The Alchemist. I have to say, I read The Alchemist a lot, right? I've really read it probably around 4 or 5 times, and I like to go back to read it. So for those of you who don't know what this book is about, it's basically about a shepherd boy who has a recurring dream about his treasure, and he really now wants to go out and go search for his treasure, and he goes on a long journey to looking for his treasure, which is apparently at the pyramids in Egypt. And we go through just his journey. He meets very interesting people who reveal certain things about his treasure, and it's a very exciting book if you have not read it so many times. So I try to read it. The reason why I've read it so many times is that each time I'm able to learn something different from the book. This time though, I almost put this book down because I was just like, I've read it too many times and I can't find anything new from it. But I read The Alchemist. I'm glad I did not put it down. But what I will do is leave it on my reading shelf for a very long time and not read it. Probably for the next 5 years. I will not touch this book. Right? And then the other book, also on my TBR for 2021, was finishing the State of Africa. I'm so proud of myself. Yay! I read a good chunk of part 2, and I will be doing a review of part 2 like I did with part 1. So I read part 2, and I'm so glad that I really got in a lot of movement on this particular part. Like I said, it's a 7-part book. And I'll just say just a little bit that I'll say in this video about this book. And I raved about it in part 1, right? In my part 1 review. But I'll just say that part 2 for me was very stressful. Part 2 was very, very stressful. Part 2 was very traumatizing, and it will make you angry. That's all I'll say. But I will say more in my review of part 2, which should be my next video. So these are the physical books that I read. And then I read also 3 ebooks. I read I read on Google Books, I think that's what it's called, and I read 3 ebooks from them. So the first one that I read, and I will say from the onset, I did not finish, was Bridgerton, The Duke and I. So most of us, 90% of us, got so caught up in the Bridgerton, what's the trend and vibe, and we watched Bridgerton. I personally watched it more than one should binge on a series, probably about 10 times. I've watched it, and so I thought maybe I should go back and read the book. And yeah, I put the book down because it's like, no, listen, one, it's a waste of my time. I already know what's happening. And because of that, I felt that the book was so slow paced for me, and I was just like, no thanks. No, I'll put the book down. I also, because of Netflix, I did not like the Simon character in the book, and I love the Simon character on Netflix. So that was the one book that I read. I will say I read maybe 4 chapters and was like, no, no, thanks. This is not for me. I put it down. So that was the first book, Bridgerton, the first book in the Bridgerton series, which is The Duke and I, which is what the Netflix series is based on. And then I read 2 more ebooks, and these ones I actually finished. So I also read a fantasy, and I think it falls under young adult and fantasy series, and this was my first time reading this sort of genre, and so I was very excited. Like I mentioned before, that I really want to challenge myself to read different books, and yeah, so I was really glad that I picked up this particular ebook. It is called You Are Mine, and it is the first book in a series of 4 books. So in You Are Mine, so it's You Are Mine by Janelle Feller. Yeah, so it was quite interesting for me. Like I said, I've never really read fantasy books. Um, but I see why a lot of people like them. So this particular book is about a girl who knows that it's about a girl who is of age now and is ready for marriage, and she will be married by a warlock. So before you actually get married and as you enter into the marriage market, they have to test your blood to see the amount of magic you have, and then the more magic you have in your blood, the more appealing you are and the more marital offers you'll get, and that is great for your father, who is a warlock. Her father is a warlock. Terrible, terrible man. So I enjoyed this character. I think her name was Serena. I actually forgot the name of this girl. Yeah, the main character's name. But I think it was Serena. And we follow her journey. She gets chosen by a warlock who is an absolute jerk. But then, and I don't want to say too much about this, but she doesn't end up with this warlock. He died. That's one spoiler I'll give you. And then she gets I don't know, she gets owned by a different warlock, and he's different to what they know about warlocks, and if you get things wrong you will be tarnished. So we follow her journey, being scared of being tarnished, number one, and being scared of being married to these horrible, horrible warlocks. So it's a great book. It's a series of books. I enjoyed it. I read it in about 2 days. So I think it's quite an easy book. Yeah, so that was the, what is it called? You Are Mine. I also read Dirty Rogue, and it is part of the Billionaire series. What a waste of my damn time, right? So 60% of this book, and I picked it up because as I read the synopsis, I really liked the plot. So I read this and I was so excited, and in the beginning I was really excited to read it. But then as I get to like 20, 30, 40% of the book, I'm like, come on. We are reading 60% of this book. 50% of this book is these 2 characters, the main characters, lusting after each other. Then the other 30% of the book, they are really, really like going at it, and then the rest of the book, it's just like, what a letdown. So the whole time, and the only reason I kept on reading was I needed to get to the climax where, so it's okay, let me just tell you what this book is about. So it's about this girl who's moving from, I don't remember what small town, and she's moving to New York because her fiance was cheating on her with her best friend, and so she leaves that life. She's a PR guru, and so she gets a transfer to the New York office, and she moves in with her college friend in New York who is rich and lives in this beautiful apartment and whatever. And then on her first day, obviously, as she gets off the plane and tries to get from the airport to the apartment, things go wrong. She gets in this dodgy taxi and she decides to get out of the taxi. It's raining. Things happen with her suitcase, goes flying, things, whatever, and she meets this guy. Never thinks she'll see him again, but obviously their paths cross. And Jesus Christ, this guy has a secret that he's hiding from everybody. So the entire time I'm waiting for the secret to be revealed. And I was so excited. And I was so excited when the secret was revealed, but so let down by the finish. So this book was just really at the bottom like this. Then we got to the climax where the secret was revealed, and it went whoop, down. Waste of my weekend, because I read that book in, I think I read it in one sitting. Yeah, and Dirty Rogue. I will not be reading the other books in that series. I don't think I will, unless I am dealing with very hard things and I really want to waste my time. But it gets a thumbs down from me. Okay, so yeah, those were the books that I read in Feb. March was a really good reading month for me, and I actually enjoyed the books that I read. All the books that I'm going to mention now were ebooks. I read them on Google Play Books. I read the second book in the Bridgerton series, The Viscount Who Loved Me. Is it The Viscount? Yeah, The Viscount Who Loved Me by Julia Quinn. Like I said, it's the second book in the Bridgerton series, and this one focuses on Anthony, the eldest son. So we're in this book, we are following Anthony making the decision to get married, and he enters the marriage market. He chooses a wife, and this girl, the wife that he chooses, is Edwina, who has an older sister, and Edwina has, I think I'm pronouncing it right, has declared that she's not going to get married unless her sister approves of the man. So he has to go through that whole approval by the sister. And I mean, it was such a charming story. It was such a sweet story. Edwina's sister Kate, who is actually the main character in this book. And yeah, we go through their fears. So Anthony has a certain fear. And Kate as well has her own fears. Edwina also has her own fears. But so this book is around these characters working around their fears. And, Bridgerton is a love series, and so them finding love and them getting married. And yeah, it was such a charming book. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave it a 4-star. On my Instagram when I spoke about it. I actually enjoyed it. I also read book 3 in the Bridgerton series. This one is called An Offer from a Gentleman, and this one follows Benedict's story. So Benedict is the second child and second son, and I just have to say that I love Lady Bridgerton more and more as I read these books. She is such a fine character, and in this book actually we get to read more about Lady Bridgerton. So this one is Benedict, who was not looking at getting a wife, but he does fall in love with this young lady who is not who he knows her to be, so they're not in the same societal ranks. And in those days, it seems that you had to marry in your rank, and if this lady is not within your rank, they are in a lower rank, then you can only keep her as your mistress. And obviously the girl doesn't want that, but Benedict loves her, and he really wants to be with her. He just can't marry her. So we follow that story. This, for me, was the best one. I thought I enjoyed The Viscount Who Loved Me, but I absolutely loved this one. So not that I thought, I did enjoy The Viscount, but this one I absolutely loved. Like, the funny parts were so funny. I really found myself chuckling out loud. But the sad parts, guys, they really had me choking a bit. Yeah, they really had me choking. And yeah, it was such a great book. I gave this one a 5-star, because it was so raw, and you could really feel the emotions, the girl's emotions. Now I forgot her name. Bloody hell. Yeah, that's one thing about me. I keep forgetting people's names, especially book characters. But anyway, it was a great book. I thoroughly recommend this book, and I'm going to continue with the Bridgerton series. Okay, so that was that. Nightmares of Caitlin Lockyer by Demelza Carlton. Yeah, I think I'm pronouncing it correctly. This book, guys, I enjoyed it. So it's a murder mystery, and it's a crime mystery, and I will say it has what do you call it? Triggers. There are triggers in this book because there is sexual assault. The book is around this girl who was kidnapped, and she suffered some sexual violation, sexual assault, and it she was found almost like half dead. They were gonna kill her, and she was rescued by this guy who promises to take care of her and help her find these guys. And she has suppressed the memories. I think it's suppressed. I don't think she has lost her memory. I think it's for anybody who's suffered some sort of trauma. Usually or sometimes they suppress those memories. So those memories are suppressed, and she's trying to recollect so that they can find these guys. And yeah, so it is a heavy book, but it is so well written. I like the pace of the book. I absolutely enjoyed everything about this book. But I do have to warn you, it has some triggers. I think I gave this a 4-star or a 5-star. If I gave it a 5-star, I want to downgrade it to 4-star, because it was not like I gave Benedict's book a 5-star. But it was a great book, but I'm going to give it a 4-star. So yeah. And then I read A Waste of My Time. YAs are really annoying for me, especially when it has to do with like romance and whatever. But I read what is it? The Secret Sex Diary of an Indian Girl by Rushita S. So, I mean, it's a short book. It's like 45 pages. So it's like a short story, and you're just going through this girl talking about her sexual experiences. Yeah, it is boring. I found it boring. I think I gave it a 2-star because, I mean, it's based on her real life. But I do think a younger audience would appreciate and enjoy this book. I just didn't, because I was expecting heat and whatever, but really it was not. It was not. Yeah, no thanks. I don't want to talk more about this book, but I read that book. Apparently there are 2 books. Yeah, I thought I would read the second book as well, and I was like, no thanks, goodbye. But yeah, I read that book, and then I read the last book that I read. This is actually the last book that I read. And yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed this book. So this one also got a 5-star from me, and it is called The Swap by Nancy Boyarsky. I think that's how you pronounce his surname. Yeah, so I understand this was her debut novel. And guys, this is like a 5-star plus. I thoroughly enjoyed this book. I gave it a 5-star, guys, and like it deserves 5+++. It's a murder mystery. We're following a couple who have swapped houses with a London-based couple. They are from LA. Yeah, so the husband will be spending the summer at the London office, and the wife forces herself onto this trip. He did not want her to come along. But they have problems in their marriage, and she feels that this will give them a chance to work on their marriage. Hi. This guy is trash. He's having an affair with his PA, which is why he didn't want her to come onto this trip. He is running some illegal side hustle, laundering money. Yeah, and things happen to this lady that he doesn't believe really happened, and he just says that she is crazy. And part of the things that happen to her are because of his illegal side hustle. The main thing though is that this couple has been mistaken for the original London couple, and this lady, like, there is a hit on her. And the husband is just oblivious to all of this. And yeah, it's just crazy. there is a lot of running, there is a murder, there are bombs that go on. Like, oh, it was such a great book. Such a great book. So fitting for like murder mysteries and all of that, and Mystery March, you know. So I enjoyed that book. And yeah, guys, those are all the books that I read in March. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please like the video and subscribe, and perhaps also click that notification bell so you get notified whenever I post a new video. I shall see you in my next video. Toodles.